Anyway, so I just came back from The Crow, the Crow remake, and I have quite a bit of things to say about it. I mean, not too much, I guess, or not too much about the movie itself, but definitely everything around it. Because the movie itself, there's not much for me to say. I don't really care about it too much, if I'm being very honest. But I do want to preface by saying I haven't seen the 1997 original starring Brandon Lee, and I am very aware of the cultural significance around that movie. And I'm also very aware of the tragedy that happened around Brandon Lee around the time of the release of that movie as well. A couple things I do want to say with that preface, though, is that one, I am going to be looking at this movie for what it is. I guess you can say I don't have anything to compare the remake with going in, so gives me a more of a fair chance of judging the movie. But I do want to say I did intend to see the original before going to the remake. I just kept procrastinating really hard to that point, so I never got around to it. So let's get into this. Also, another thing I just want to talk about is with Bill Skarsgård. So from the marketing of this movie, I thought it was just gonna be another dumb action movie at best, or the worst, or worst comes to worst, this would at least be a dumb action movie I'm gonna find enjoyment out of, right? Something along the lines of John Wick. Yeah, that's about it. All I can think of. That's all I can think of on top of my head in recent memories, to be honest. There's The Beekeeper, but we don't talk about The Beekeeper. And I also want to bring up the fact that it seems that Hollywood doesn't really have many action stars or mainstay action stars like we did like we did in our yesteryears, right? We had Stallone, Lundgren, Willis. There's a couple other I can't think of on top of my head. Schwarzenegger. I mean, we could still name a few, but they're not, they're just not going to be as iconic, or they're going to be iconic, just not in the same way. I guess we have Vin Diesel now. I don't really know. I don't know if I want to count Vin Diesel. I guess Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I guess. I mean, he does more than just action, obviously. He does basically everything. I guess Keanu Reeves off the back of John Wick, I guess. I mean, me personally, I need more than just one franchise, but then again, 4 movies is quite a lot, though. 4 successful movies at that, box office wise anyways. I guess you can say Tom Cruise, but I don't know if I want to count him as an action hero. I mean, stunts are technically action, I guess, but the action I'm thinking of is just I don't know, man. It's more than just stunts. So I mean, yeah, I guess he does get his hands dirty or whatever you want to say, but it's kind of, the choreography with him is usually kind of whatever for the most part. So that ties us back to The Crow. For the most part, I was thinking this might actually be Bill Skarsgård's year to be 2024's action hero. We had Boy Kills World that just came out earlier this year, or at least it had its mainstream theatrical release earlier this year. According to Letterboxd, it's actually a 2023 film. And then we have The Crow, which was marketing itself to be at the very least a dumb fun action movie, right? So now that the remake is out, what do I feel, right? And this is just looking at this movie as its own thing, right? Without the context of, the original, right? It's pretty mediocre. I could care less about this movie. So to start, the movie's pretty absurd. The first quarter of the movie is pretty absurd. I do want to preface, there's going to be some minor spoilers. I mean, there's not much for me to spoil anyways, and I don't think most of y'all are going to go out and see it for yourselves either. But I guess just out of courtesy's sake, here's the spoiler warning anyways. So the first act or so, right, it felt pretty rushed. The speed that things went by felt pretty fine in itself, but what happened, the amount of things that happened within that time frame was quite a lot. Well, actually no, it wasn't a lot. It's just, how do I put it? It hinges on the chemistry between the two characters, or two main leads, right? Or romantic chemistry. And you know what? I bought it. I mean, it was definitely rushed the way they got there, but for the most part, if you suspend your disbelief, it's pretty solid, but it's also nothing really special or very deep either. And as soon as you finally buy into the relationship, it kind of just, cuts off there, or things turn for the worse. I mean, if you see the trailer by now, we kind of know, right? This is where they get killed off, right? As soon as you get invested to them, immediately you haven't stayed invested long enough for you to really deeply care about them. I guess that's the best way for me to say it. And another thing about the romance is it just felt very juvenile and very unbelievable in the way it developed as well. So it's kind of absurd. It's almost this movie almost feels like it was written by an edgy teenage boy and what his idea of romance is. This was an edgy teenage boy's romantic fan fiction. That's what this movie really felt like for the most part. So moving on past that crap, right? The movie seems to take a huge nosedive with its pacing. The movie just completely slows down. I will say this, at least the first quarter of the movie or whatever, right? It felt like the movie was having fun with itself at the very least. Even though it was kind of absurd and really dumb, you could still at least laugh at it and enjoy yourself, right? At least I did. It was really dumb, don't get me wrong, but like I said, it's still digestible if you accept the absurdity of it. I don't think it's intentionally trying to be absurd either, but it just comes off that way. So yeah, this is where the movie kind of takes a nosedive with its pacing, like I said, and it really has a more melodramatic approach to it, but it just comes off as very edgy and very angsty. Like, it's hard to take it seriously, especially with the dialogue and the way it presents the theme of the movie. And this movie has a very strong center focus on the theme of love, but like, it doesn't really do anything with that theme other than just repeatedly say it to you and remind you that, oh, you saw a relationship earlier in the movie. That's all there really was to it, you know? Like, and the way they present the theme as well, they just keep beating it into your head, and like, they just have a very surface level approach on the theme as well, and it's just not very interesting to watch or even take in. So when the movie tries to be deeper than it really is, it just falls flat. It just sounds like an edgy teenage boy trying to preach to me, but they're only 13. What do they know about love or whatever, right? Like, plus, like, if you see the absurd angstiness as well, like, yeah, it's even harder to take seriously as well. So the theme sucks. The placing just takes a dramatic nosedive, and the way things just climax and resolve itself just felt very unsatisfying. And now, like I said, I was expecting a dumb fun action movie. Did I get my dumb fun action movie? Kind of in between, right? In case you haven't seen my video on The Beekeeper yet, let's just say I was very disappointed with the action in that movie, right? Like, you know, it's not dumb, it's not fun, it's just very uninspired. As I will say, The Crow beats The Beekeeper out in terms of action choreography, but like, it felt very slow and kind of a little sloppy at the same time, but it felt more, I guess, exciting. It still felt more exciting and interesting to watch, unlike The Beekeeper, right? A couple other minor nitpicks. A lot of the dialogue exchange, not very interesting. And some of the dialogue felt really forced as well, other than just to say, you know, and I mean dialogue outside of just repeating the theme of the movie to the audience, right? And it's just, God, it's really whatever. Like, you don't care about any of these characters, right? And going to the minor spoilers, apparently I don't really have much to say either, because I think I just, you know, articulated what I need to say already. So basically, the romance felt so rushed. The way they built the relationship between Eric, or Bill Skarsgård character, and what's her face, Shelly? I don't remember her name. See, that's how little I care about these characters, right? See? And, you know, I could care less about the romantic aspect of this movie. It was just so freaking rushed. It doesn't feel forced per se, because it does have relevance in the movie, but like, it's just so absurd. It's just two 13-year-olds being in love. That's what all it really is. It's just ridiculous. It's just really unbelievable. And some of the soundtrack, some of the song choices as well, just doesn't fit the movie either. Now let's dial in on Bill Skarsgård's performance, and I guess we can tie in the original Crow as well, right? So, like I said, I know the original Crow in 1997 has a very huge cultural impact. It had a huge cultural significance, especially around Brandon Lee as well, right? And from what I hear, Brandon Lee had a very strong performance in that movie. So 2024, The Crow has a huge uphill battle to justify its existence. So like, it needs to be just as good, or it needs to be better, or at the very least do its own thing. Not just do its own thing, but do it good. And that's where the movie kind of falls flat, to be honest. Like, Bill Skarsgård's performance as Eric Draven, this is coming from someone who hasn't witnessed Brandon Lee in the role yet, right? But Bill Skarsgård's take on this role just wasn't very interesting. It felt very run-of-the-mill. I think you could have just subbed him in with any actor, to be honest, and then they would have done this role perfectly fine as well. So like it really does feel like Bill Skarsgård just phoned in on this role. And I think I remember reading an interview that the original Crow inspired Bill Skarsgård in a lot of ways too. So it's like, this is not good. And I should also mention that this remake was also like surrounded by non-stop controversy, and just a lot of negative reception from crazy negative feedback from the test screenings, as well as the original director, producers, and writers coming out and saying, yeah, they don't approve of this remake either, because, you know, this movie really does feel like it kind of disrespected the memory of Brandon Lee. It doesn't set itself apart from the original. It doesn't do anything to stand out on its own. It's just very run-of-the-mill. They listened to a 13-year-old. They let a 13-year-old edgelord write this. That's what this movie felt like. So that's probably my main 2 cents on the movie. Like, I really thought it was gonna be Bill Skarsgård year. I mean, still maybe technically it is, right? Because there's no other actor that came out with more than 2 action movies this year. I don't know. Not on top of my head, I mean, about I don't care. If you want to see Bill Skarsgård in an action movie as the main lead, I would say just go watch Boy Kills World. That's a lot more fun to watch. It's it's very fun to watch. And if you really compare the two movies, I mean, you shouldn't because they're still different movies. But like, I guess the fact that they're action alone, you can compare them, I guess. But at least Boy Kills World knows what it wants to be and sticks to it and is very unapologetic with it, right? It has its own 2 feet to stand on, unlike The Crow, which does not stand on its own 2 feet. Do I think this movie is as bad as what people are saying it is? I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that, this doesn't live up to the original, or it doesn't stand itself apart from the original, is what I'm speculating. I haven't really read what other people say other than the fact that this has a strongly negative reception so far. But of the other worst movies of the year, we have obviously this is definitely in the conversation as one of the worst movies of this year. You also have Madam Web, and you also have Borderlands. To be honest, I don't know where this stands, to be honest. Like, while I was in the theater watching this, I was like, oh, you know what? I might think this is better than... I might actually think this is the best of the 3 worst movies of the year. But now I'm sitting back, I'm like, I think I might actually rather watch Madam Web than this, to be honest. Because at least it doesn't have that teenage angst absurdity, right? But the other part of me is also like, I'm a huge Borderlands fan. I'd rather watch Borderlands, even though that movie was also very flawed. You should also check out my video on that, by the way. So it's just, I just, you know what? Maybe it just depends on my mood. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the Linkin Park biopic. See you, nerds.
Because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Don't make me change my mind. No, I won't live to see another day. I swear it's true. 'Cause a girl like you's impossible to find.